Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me. My name is Donna and I'm from Clever Crafting. Today we're going to make a lovely floating card, and we're going to start with a card base that's 21 centimeters across and 13 centimeters tall. So the width of an A4 piece of card and a little bit shorter than an A5. I'm just putting it on my score board here with the 21 centimeter piece across the top, and I'm scoring it at 3.5 centimeters and then again at 6 centimeters. I'm flipping it around 21 centimeter length at the top, and I'm doing that again 3.5 centimeters and 6 centimeters. I will have inches in the description box below as well for those of you that work in imperial and not in centimeters. Okay, so now we're going to fold it. So we're going to do the closest ones to the center need to be a valley fold, which means that I'm folding the card in and it gives me a valley look. Then the ones closest to the outside are going to be a mountain fold, so which means I'm folding them out. And so when you hold it up, it's like a peak. Now, my intention was to do the same on the other side, but look at that, I blew it. It's not supposed to be a valley fold, that one. That is supposed to be a mountain fold. I do work that out in a minute and just fold it back. So that's okay. We can all make mistakes and get into it. It's all fine. Okay, so we've used our bone folder to make sure that they're nice strong creases, and that's how our card base is starting to look. So we're going to flatten that and start with putting our center piece in. Now I've used the same patterned paper for the center as the sides, but of course you don't have to. And that piece that I'm putting in there is 8.5 centimeters by 12.5 centimeters. I'm just going to put some double-sided tape on the back and burnish it in. I'm showing you this part because I find that a lot of people struggle with getting the tape off the back, and I suppose I do sometimes too. But if you burnish it down, rub it in with a bone folder, it goes into the fibers of the paper and makes the release paper so much easier to remove. It's crazy how much easier it is. What I'm doing here is something I've done for years and years and years, and that is remove a little bit of the tape from two diagonally opposite corners. So that will actually be each piece of the 4 pieces of tape, but just in the 2 corners. Then I'm using the other 2 corners to line it up, and then I can gently remove that release paper from underneath and it will be straight every single time. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I've done the center of the card base, and now I will do both sides. As I mentioned earlier, I did choose to do the same cardstock here, same pattern paper, I beg your pardon, but you can choose different ones if you like, which I have done in some of the samples you'll see at the end. So these 2 side pieces are 3 centimeters by 12.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to use the same trick, but this time there was only 2 strips of the double-sided tape, so still diagonal opposite corners, but of course I only had 1 piece each corner to pick up. Gently removing that release tape. So that is about 1.5 centimeters deep, and it's 15 centimeters wide. That width you can make the depth, the height of it, which I've got as 1.5 centimeters. You can do any size you like. So under normal circumstances I do it about 2.5 centimeters, but for this particular one I wanted it to match my sentiment, which you can see I've heat embossed on it in silver, happy birthday. So I am just sticking it on one edge, and you can see that I've got my card flat. It's really important that you have it folded the same way, flat the same way, when you do both the top and the bottom piece here, which is going to stabilize your card. So you can see that I've chosen to have the right hand side folded and the left hand side flat when I'm putting these on. That was just a little check there to make sure that it was all working fine, and that's great. And of course you got to see the top of my head too, and who doesn't love to see that? Now I'm just putting some extra glue on the bottom piece, and I'm going to stick that on as well. You'll see that also on one of the samples I've got a sentiment on the top piece, on the top strip and on the bottom strip, so you can do that as well. You can decorate it and do however you want. So, and I've got the card folded the same way as I did when I put the first one on, and here's why it's important. I think I'm going to show you now that when I flip it the other way, so that's flat that way and it'll go into your envelope like that. But when you nice and it stands up nicely there, but when you fold it the other way, can you see that it goes all bumpy? Don't know why that happens, but as long as you fold it the one way when you're doing it all, solves the problem. We're just going to add some acetate strips now. The acetate strips, I'm pretty sure that this came off a Easter egg box that I got Easter eggs in, but you can use anything. The fine acetate is good at this point because you'll have it secured at the top and the bottom. So I'm just cutting that so it'll fit nice and neatly and not be seen on the two strips and the back of the two strips at the top and the bottom of the card. I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm also got another piece of acetate and match the size, just cut at the same length. And I've put some double-sided tape on the top and bottom edge of both of these strips, which I am then going to attach to the card. All you need to do is remove that paper. I burnished that on again so you can move the release paper a little bit easier. And slip it behind the strips. Now, where you position these is totally up to you. You want to do it in the, that, I guess that's a hole there when the card's up in its final position, because you want to make your embellishments look like they're floating. That's the illusion that we're creating right now. So I don't necessarily put these in an even space from either side. I just put them randomly. You can put them in diagonally. You can do all sorts of things depending on what embellishments you're using and where you want to position them on your card. So I'm just popping the second one here. You can see that it's closer to the center than the first one I put in, and it's just going to add some variation. So my embellishments will be a little bit uneven and add a bit more interest. All right. So now I'm going to add my hot air balloons. So I've got a gentleman in mind for this card, so I decided hot air balloons. That's not a reflection on him being full of hot air. But I've found once again that with acetate, it's very important to use double-sided tape when securing anything on it. It's immediate and tends to hold better than glue, unless you're using a glossy glue. But double-sided tape does fine just for me. So I've positioned them where I want those pieces, and I'm just putting the balloons on where I want them. You can see I'm just securing that. Of course, I like to add extra, and in this lovely stamp and die set, they've also got some little clouds which I cut out, and I'm going to add some clouds to the card. So not only have I put them on the front of the card and on one of the acetate strips, I've popped some glue on the back of that one and putting that on the back piece of the card. These were literally cut out of some white card scraps that I had. Because I've got a dark card base, I decided to secure a white piece on the back for my sentiment, for my note that I want to write my friend. Whoop, upside down, that's fine. And there we have the finished card with floating hot air balloons. So here's a couple of close-ups of it. I've also got, as I mentioned, a couple of other samples. One is with butterflies and the other one is with dragonflies. So you could really make this card using anything, flowers, all sorts of things. I could imagine them with teapots, and so let your imagination run wild. I'd love to see anything that you do on our Facebook page, which is Gold Coast Crafters. I will put a link down below. And I'd like to thank you very much for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love you to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Catch you next time. Bye.